our newspapers here reported the fact that you were on South Georgia, and presumably Buenos Aires knew too. Weren't you surprised that the Argentines didn't come to capture you?
Yes, initially we were. I mean, we thought as they had the Grytviken 13, as they're now known as, and the 22 Marines on board, they would probably want to get rid of all civilians, and we were waiting for them to come and pick us up. But as time went on, it was obviously that they weren't going to bother with small folk like us, so that's when we settled down to try and relax a little bit.
Now, of course, throughout this time, you were raising your own Union Jack. Were you just being patriotic?
Well, it was sort of a little bit of that, and I don't know, sort of taking it down, you know, little British island down the Antarctic, and tiny little hut, 8 foot by 12 miles from anywhere. It was just nice to fly the flag every now and then.
What were the first hints that you got that the British sailors and soldiers had invaded South Georgia?
Well, it was on the Sunday, at 2:15 we started hearing very heavy gun fire. I mean, not sort of machine guns, you know, really heavy things. And that went on for 2.5 hours, and we then realised that obviously something was going on there. I mean, we couldn't be sure who was winning. We obviously hoped it was the Royal Navy. And so we simply had to wait, really. But in fact, we then listened to the news, and it came on the news that night.
What were your feelings during this time, knowing the invasion was going on, wondering what had happened to you?
What during the sort of the explosions and everything else? Obviously, a feeling of pride that they'd arrived, and elation to a certain point. One was always aware of what the rest of the task force were doing, so you know we were in fact so lucky, really. I mean, we hadn't been that involved, and relief, I think, really, that the waiting was over. It had been a long month, really.
I know you both keep journals, diaries. What were the first words you wrote in the journal that day that you knew you were going to be rescued?
Nothing spectacular, actually. I think yes, as, you know, something like "Good news, they've come at last" or something.
The boys are here.
The boys are back.
What were the boys like when they arrived?
Oh, lovely.
Oh, fabulous.
Lovely.
I mean, what bliss.